Wingfield for your patience and for attending the committee this evening. Tonight we wanted to do two things. One was to speak to you about your more general portfolio, and I'm sure members will have questions with regard to that. But also we've put it specifically on the agenda about the underpayment of national minimum wage, which is an issue that we're doing a longer term scrutiny on, and in particular to gain some insight into the level of the problem within Southwark in terms of national minimum wage. What we've previously done, which I'm sure you're aware of already, we spoke to Councillor Andy Hull from Islington previously about the good work that they've done there with regard to that issue. But we will come back to that in a little moment. So we'll start off with the more general questions about your portfolio. But as ever with these cabinet member interviews, we like to give you a little bit of time just to speak about what you think are the key issues in your area of work at the moment, so we'll kick off with that if that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for inviting me here this evening. It's always a pleasure to be scrutinised, and I can see you've all vented your spleens well beforehand, so I can rest back in pleasure. No.
Everyone's promised to be very well behaved now.
But anyway, obviously I've come prepared for the culture brief because I know how cultured you all are. Yes, and that's what you want to concentrate on. But I will cover employment and skills in the process. Can I say that obviously my portfolio is 10 times harder than Councillor Williams's portfolio, and I've been set these very significant challenges in relation to getting people back to work. 5,000 is our target by 2018. Also, we're committed to getting 2,000 apprentices up and running by 2018 as well. We've also got the Youth Fund, as you know, which has been up and running for a number of years, and we've also launched the Youth Guarantee just this year, together with support for businesses through our SEED programme, which is giving up to 2/3.
50%?
50%, sorry. Somebody told me 2/3, that's really wrong. Up to 50% of the living wage for an apprentice for a small to medium-sized concern within the borough. We've also set up the business forum in recent months. We had the first meeting in June. We've got the next one coming up in a couple of weeks. Yeah. We've also launched the new bid in Bermondsey, and we've also had reballots, successful reballots at London Bridge and at Bankside. And also there's been the new bid of Southbank created in that year as well. We're also committed to cross-borough working. We work very closely with our sister boroughs either side of us, Lambeth and Lewisham. And we've got 3 programmes there, one called Better Placed, the other called Working Capital, and we have a third programme which is supported by Central London Forward as part of that, particularly for the construction sector. So all of this together is quite a sort of varied portfolio, and the last issue I wanted to talk upon within that was really the living wage and the minimum wage. Now I know you want to specifically talk about that at greater length, but as you know, we are a living wage employer. All the contractors that we enter into agreements with are living wage employers, and through our commissioned employment support framework, we also have spread the living wage out that way to those employers that are engaged in that framework. So I'll talk at greater length about other activities we're doing around that and the minimum wage as well, but I just really wanted to set the scene there in relation to what we've done. But primarily I think I ought to say about the employment and apprenticeship side is that altogether over the last sort of year and a half, we're looking at the end of this year to probably have in the region of about nearly half that target, 2,500 jobs for that 5,000. overall target. And similarly with the apprenticeships, we're hoping to have over 700 by the end of this municipal year as well. So, we're well on target for meeting those overall objectives. But anyway, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Councillor Wingfield. And I know Jasmine's already indicated to me that she wanted to ask a little bit about that point on apprenticeships and the wider issue. So over to you first, Jasmine.
Well, just very quickly, I don't feel so bad now that we're on target about raising these issues. On the apprenticeship programme,
Yes.
Obviously that is very important for us. But I'm starting to think now in my capacity as the chair of Education and Children's Services, I'm thinking about the 10,000 young people that need care every year. Thinking about those, I'm thinking about also from a subjective point of view those older workers that may want to retrain to get back into the labour market, but also children and young people with special needs, because we're getting there, aren't we, with the education. We've got these amazing schools. Only in my ward we've got schools which are really geared to helping pupils with special needs meet their potential. But what happens after that? So really I'm looking at the apprenticeship programme because it's quite a good focused area which we're doing really well on. But I'm looking at the people that might be slipping through the gaps really. So, I just wondered if you'd had any thoughts now, but also I wanted to say that, I'm committed to helping you with this work in terms of my chairing of that committee. So, maybe we could have a bigger dialogue, and obviously it's an open invitation for you to come to that committee as well to look at this in more detail. But I would really like to look at and to talk to people in the community from these groups about their experiences of the apprenticeship programme, or even getting near it.
And before we go further, I noticed I didn't give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Yes, sorry.
Danny Edwards, Strategy and Partnership Manager. I manage the Council's local economy team.
Welcome, Danny. Okay, Ian.
Yeah, Danny might want to come in, but I wanted to make a couple of specific points. I guess proportionally compared to other inner London boroughs and certainly outer London boroughs, we have a high percentage of people that need that extra support to break the barriers that they face getting into employment. So we have a scheme called Participation, Education and Training team. Now that's an award-winning scheme. It's been acknowledged as a leader in the field in terms of what it does, and basically that provides both services and opportunities to parents and young people locally for them to get the additional support they need to overcome those barriers, whether it's some disability or whatever it may be. We also have a scheme called Families Matter. The Early Help Service and the Youth Offending Service all work together to provide that assistance, especially for those young people that might have been in trouble with the law in one aspect or another, or have learning difficulties, etc., etc. So it's particularly that 19 to 24 age group that's targeted with these programs. Southwark Works, our employment framework provider, they do target this particular group of people, and I think I mentioned the last time I came here, I was really enthused and encouraged when I went to their 10th birthday celebration, meeting a number of people there that had faced problems getting into work, and them helping it over it. And there was one chap there, I guess he was only about 19 or 20 at the most. He was autistic, and he'd been unable to find work for a number of years. Through the help of the Southwark framework, they used that autism to his advantage. He's now a guide in Westminster Abbey because he can remember all the information on every single tomb and monumental inscription in the Abbey, and so he can just pat it off in one go. So, there are niches for people, and it's just matching it. And I believe through Southwark Works we've got a very skilled organisation that's got the ability to do that. I must say on top of it that the Youth Guarantee brings that all together, committing our council to ensuring that every young school leaver either remains in education, goes into the world of employment, or has a role in training when they leave school. So again, I think all of that together helps. We could always do more, obviously. I understand that, and that's why I think a committee like yours plays a very pivotal role in sort of drilling down on a lot of this stuff, and then perhaps coming back with recommendations where we can improve and enhance on what we're doing to date. I don't know, do you want to say anything else now?
I guess I would just add, in terms of young people, particularly young people from particularly disadvantaged backgrounds, as you say, those young people that we really want to capture before they fall off the radar is the value of seeds in helping those young people and working with employers to create really good quality employment opportunities for those young people, and then giving those young people the opportunity to work for a year at London living wage. That's really valuable.
Yes.
Okay.
So
one more quick point, Rose.
No, just very quickly. Thank you for that. I mean, it's very, it's really good to hear the brilliant work that's going on, and I can't wait really to talk to some of the people about their experiences, and I only hope that can add value. So thank you,
Rosie.
I was just going to ask, a quick one. About fair trade obviously falls under your portfolio as well, and I just wondered if you could tell us a bit about what you're doing to promote fair trade across Southwark and support businesses that...
Well, it's a good job Jonathan Mitchell isn't here this evening, otherwise you wouldn't get away till 1 o'clock in the morning. But if I can put it succinctly, the good thing is that we reactivated our status as a fair trade authority. It sort of just remained on the in-tray there for a while, and we through the working party, which Jonathan and not all ex-councillors, they're not all ex-councillors, I must say, but
most of
no. But everybody drawn together on that group have been committed to ensuring that we reactivated that, and we got our status acknowledged again by the Fair Trade Foundation, which is what we did. We only got ourselves off the ground just before the Fair Trade fortnight last year, so we didn't have as much of an impact as we wanted. But this next year we will have more of an impact, and some people are suggesting, not me, you understand, that perhaps it's Jonathan, I don't know, but they dress as bananas.
Who dresses as bananas?
Well, it may be appropriate. But
who does? Ian, who specifically is going to be dressed as bananas?
well,
because that was left vague.
Well, like your previous item, Chair, I think I'll put it out of full context.
Okay, there's no preferred option. Okay, thank you. Right, good, Lisa.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question, about the Better Business Space part. And I almost hesitate to mention Canada Water and Q Collective Grown.
Where's that?
But there has been a loss of commercial space at Canada Water, partly on Quebec Way Business Centre, Mulberry Business Park, now Harmsworth Quays is going. And we were trying to push previously for there to be for it to be a green jobs hub, and for there to be some environmental aspect to the jobs that could be created there. And I just wondered what involvement you'd had in talks with British Land. Obviously there is going to be a lot of retail space in the whole site, and there is potential for a lot of jobs there.
Sure.
But I'm particularly thinking about business space and what involvement and what talks you've had with them, and what's your view about pushing for a green hub?
There's about 3 separate issues which come out of what you say. Specifically in terms of Canada Water, I don't hold the property portfolio, that's Councillor Colley. So Councillor Colley would have been involved in those discussions rather than myself. However, that being said, we were involved in discussions on the Southwark plan last year, and without talking out of school, we had concerns that perhaps the balance between housing and employment wasn't necessarily the right mix or strength, and the wording wasn't strong enough within the Southwark plan as it was put forward, suggested last year, for the very reasons you've just indicated, to try and attract those type of new IT type jobs, greening jobs, as you said. we are trying to encourage as many different businesses to start up. We're trying to look for some sort of hub, such as Shoreditch, where people people can come and just they've got a place where they can put a laptop and get their business up and going. So there's been various discussions on that, but I think the key thing is that with all the regeneration going on in the borough, it's important that we don't just create employment, we're also creating jobs which give people skills which are transferable, that they can use in other sectors of the economy, whether it's in Southwark or beyond. And also the fact that we want sustainable businesses. We don't want businesses just to be up and running and failing within 12 months. So we've had proactive discussions with our colleagues in regeneration over those issues, because I see it as my remit to defend the business side of the borough. Do you want to say? And I mean, just to say that the final version, has it gone out yet?
No, it's going to cabinet, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Well, anyway, put it this way, I'm a lot happier with the version that will be eventually.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything more?
Just to add, as officers, we work very closely with Regen colleagues on issues around affordable workspace, flexible workspace as well, because quite often affordability isn't only about cost, but it's about kind of flexible lease terms, so that a new enterprise isn't tied in to a lease that is kind of beyond what they would consider to be of an acceptable risk for new start business. So making sure that those issues, our Regen colleagues are aware of those issues around new enterprises and affordable workspaces is one of the things that we constantly do.
And sorry, can I just add that there's two other things that we do more generically. One is the Spire project, which is basically there to give advice and support on investment for SMEs. And I think 175 businesses approached us to get that advice in order to go on secure finance from banks or wherever.
Including new starts.
Including the new starts. And then we've got the council's own business portal. We set that up and going. It's a bit like My Southwark, but for businesses. And there's going to be further development of that particular site over this next year. But it's to get information on business rates and the support they can get. And we're looking at perhaps opening up individual business accounts with the council in that regard. So we're trying to be as innovative as we possibly can be within the confines of bureaucratic local government, as I'm sure you're well aware. But I think we're doing a lot more than perhaps some other authorities, and of course we've got the High Street Challenge programme as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Thank you, Chair. I've got tons of questions and I'm trying to work out which is the most important one. So I'll say this one, you never know, I might have a chance in a second. It's again linked to Regen. It's about the Latin American business community around the Elephant and Castle.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, obviously this overlaps very much with Regen, but
yes.
What discussions have been taking place in advance of the huge regeneration? And I guess it links to your cultural remit really as well. That's a really vital part about Barlow's culture. And I just wanted a bit of...
Do you want that in Spanish or English?
Oh.
Spanish dressed as a banana.
Okay, well, that needs the fluent Spanish.
Okay, we'll leave it to him.
No, I mean it's absolutely crucial, and I'm glad you've raised that because I'm a sort of a third-party observer to all this, in the sense that obviously Councillor Williams is in the thick of it, Councillor Colley as well, as I've already mentioned, but. I've had a good working relationship with Maria from Cathedral's Ward, and she's well connected with that community there, and it's important that we don't lose that flavour and essence of what makes the Elephant such a vibrant and attractive area for people to come to. And the Latin American community, predominantly Colombian, but there's people from all over Latin America there now. That they've been resident there for a long period of time, decades, And I think anybody through the process of regeneration and transformation of an area is bound to fear change and is bound to fear the impact upon their community. A lot of them are business people, as we know, because they own the various bars, restaurants and cafes around the Elephant Shopping Centre. And there are concerns over when that centre comes to be renovated or demolished and replaced, where they're going to go. And that's why I've been working very closely with Mark on not just the Elephant but the Walworth Road as well, because I think it's important that we inject new life into the Walworth Road, East Street Market as well, as you know, I've been leading on the strategy with that too. And so it's great, the whole area is taken together rather than just individual bits and pieces. And I don't want to say intrude on your previous discussions, but you have to look holistically, and that's the benefit for everybody at the end of the day.
Thank you, Johnson.
But obviously, as a ward councillor and your other colleagues locally, I welcome your input at any time.
Great, Johnson.
Thank you. Couple of questions, very quick questions. Just wanted to touch on living wage, not to be overtly political, as probably you're aware. The announcement by the Chancellor in recent months was the word living wage into question. Yes. How has the council, or how does the council expect to respond to that? Does that call into question legally? Might be a question for a moment, but does that call into question legally our term as a living wage employer, living wage authority, and how would that play out? Secondly, I represent Peckham, and it's going through a huge, massive change of regeneration, which is great. But it also presents the huge opportunity for us to kind of, as new businesses do move in as part of the regeneration, as new businesses move in, it presents the opportunity for us to soft pressure, to encourage them to be living wage employers. Are there any plans for that? Do you expect there to be any plans? I know this is thinking 5-10 years ahead, but...
No. Well, hopefully I'll still be here.
Not another 25 years.
5 more years.
I'm younger at heart.
I'm with a statue.
Yes, next to the public toilet. If I can start by just going back a bit, you mentioned culture before, and an important part of regeneration, and certainly in Peckham, that's even more so. And I think overall we tried to, with our regeneration program, even going back to when we started with the Tate Modern, it has always been arts led. It's always had arts at the front of its objectives. So Peckham, I've lived there too long probably, but it's changed tremendously in the time that I've lived in Peckham, and to see the Bussey building, to how well used that is, to see all different new types of businesses moving into the area, all arts related to a certain extent. It's just it really enthuses the dynamism, the diversity, and the activity all over Peckham, and everybody benefits as a consequence. So I'm fully subscribed to that agenda. There are specific things, if I can just mention. We've got the Mount View Academy that's moving to Eagle Wharf at the back of the library there. We want to work with them and build on their experience in the sort of theatrical world, and to extend that out into a broader community offer. As you know, we've got plans for Peckham Square itself in front of the library, and we're looking for a new gallery space to be built there. We've got a particular study looking at Peckham at the moment, which is almost due to report, looking at all the creative industries there and what more we can do to support them. The multi-storey car park has been some bone of contention, but we're going to issue a 5-year lease, which will continue the existing provision as it is at the moment. And we're also scoping out more generally to, and it comes back to Lisa's point about small businesses, to seeing what studio space is available so that we can garner in more of those cultural and artistic companies and to utilise that to maximum. Just going back to the living wage, well, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one living wage, and it's not the one the government's talking about. I mean, we should be honoured in a way that George Osborne is using Labour language. Perhaps we don't need to be in government, but no, I think we do.
Might be a while,
yeah. Well, won't be
Things are going great.
Anyway. So there's only one living wage, and that's the one which the Living Wage Foundation recognises, and that's the one that we adhere to, as I said before. It's the one that we expect all of our contractors to implement with their own workforce. We've got over 60 accredited living wage employers in the borough, which I'm quite pleased about, but there's a lot more that pay the living wage but haven't gone through the accreditation process. George Osborne can say whatever he wants, but at the end of the day, we know what the real living wage is, and if they try to say that, it's a bit like affordable housing, isn't it? The way that the government talks about affordable housing, and in a similar way, they're talking about the living wage. So we've got to show in this borough that people need not just a living wage, they need the London living wage, because that's different to the national.
I can fast see the Living Wage Foundation putting the word "real" in front of their brand pretty quickly, because it is leading to genuine confusion. Simply what is essentially an irresponsible act by the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, when we have a Labour mayor next year, Chair,
indeed,
they'll lead on that.
So I'm just going to ask a couple of quick questions about national minimum wage enforcement. Anood, I will come to you after I've spoken. I've got you. I would never miss you, I promise. So, national minimum wage enforcement.
Yes.
We had a really interesting discussion with Councillor Andy Hull from Islington at the last meeting that we had.
Yes.
And I just wanted to first of all ask you, what I know. It's a HM Customs responsibility in order to enforce the living wage, and so it is tricky for councils in order to become more involved in enforcement areas. But Newham and Islington have done some interesting things in terms of teaming up with them, going into certain high streets, and again, is that something you've looked at? Is that something you considered taking further?
Well, Chair, you mentioned before about Councillor Hull, and we've had separate briefings and meetings with Councillor Hull to pick up on those ideas. He's a very direct action operator, as you know, and he also he's visited a lot of the AGMs of major companies which are located in Islington in order to raise questions directly with the other shareholders and the board of directors. So the leader hasn't given me that commission just yet, but there's ways and means of picking up that. And what did we discuss in more detail?
Some works in particular. That's right. And employer engagement activity.
Yes, that's right. So we do get cases reported to us. I mean, not tens or hundreds, but we do get cases reported to us either through employers that Southwark comes across, and they, we do refer those on to
the hotline.
The Revenues and Customs.
Okay.
But our role is very prescribed, so we can't really do.
There's one of the things we wanted to look at doing. One of the actions we took from the last meeting was to, because they did it in Newham, was that they commissioned a polling organisation. I forget which one it was, Shelley, but one of the major polling organisations, in order to do an assessment of the levels of underpayment of national minimum wage within their borough. Ipsos Mori. Now, clearly they did that a few years back, and we asked for a quote in order to do what basically was exactly the same piece of work within our borough. I won't give the exact figure, but it was a lot of money, more money than would be available to Southwark Overview and Scrutiny at this stage, unfortunately. I wonder whether or not we might be able to go into discussions with you about whether or not you might have any budgets available. I know things are tight for everybody at the moment in order to help us to pursue that work.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong person.
Am I? Am I indeed? Okay.
I wish I did.
Okay.
But I'm afraid at this time it would have to be a more corporate request. Can I put it that way?
Okay. Well, as long as we know the route to go.
Yes.
That's,
yes. Can I just say though, because I don't want people to go away with the wrong impression. As part of the business forum that we've set up recently, we've got the agreement of businesses there that are involved in the living wage pilot along Tooley Street, More London, to come out and to meet with other employers and to spread the word about the benefits of adopting the London living wage. So the employers themselves are being proactive about it. It's not just the council, and that's one of the other benefits to establishing this business forum, because we've got that dialogue and that immediacy with them. We don't have to browbeat them. They're quite happy to go out and spread the word themselves. And we're hoping we have there's some sort of new leadership in the Chamber of Commerce locally, and they seem a bit more wised up, to also both monitor the minimum wage, but also to encourage the adoption of the living wage too.
Okay. We need to do some more thinking as a committee about exactly what form this scrutiny takes from here on in. One of the things I'd like to think about as pursuing is doing some kind of survey that we would encourage people on low pay to fill out and give us more information and a better picture of the issue of underpayment and national minimum wage within the borough. Again, with the contacts that you have and the links that you have into the community, it would be great if you could give us some assistance in getting that out there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, can I say one body that we've been working with very closely now, and the leader as well, is London Citizens. And they come forward with lots of examples. In Southwark based, not just the rest of London. And we do take up those cases that they give us directly to try and resolve. So a body like that, we're quite happy to work with them even more.
And I'm working very closely with Southwark Citizens and the Living Wage Foundation on a programme of activities for Living Wage Week, which is coming up in November.
Yes.
Good. Anu.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Ian. Just on Southwark Works, if anybody doesn't send constituents who are looking for work to Southwark Works, they should. They're the best people in the world, and I love them very much. My questions, I've got two, I'm afraid. First was just to ask you a bit more about the apprenticeships figure. So you said you were up to 700, or you would be?
Not, by the end of
by May 2016. Okay, and you're going to be up to 2,000 by 2018.
That's it.
So that doesn't sound to me on target. That sounds behind target.
It's no. The target is profiled because we.
Okay, so halfway doesn't mean halfway on the target.
No.
Okay.
No. Because we're planning lots of activity which will ramp up delivery.
So what's the number now?
Of that target. The end of the first year was 136.
136, right. And what was the target for the end of the first year?
The target for the end of the first year was 100.
100. Okay.
But there was 136 commissioned through the council. There was 83 in construction through Section 106 agreement.
Yes.
And it's all right.
Yeah. There's more.
Okay, no, because that was going to be my.
And there's 27 commissioned through the commissioned employment support.
So 136 through the council, 83 through construction, and 27 through.
246 was the total number for the first year.
And what was 27? Sorry?
Through the Southwark Works.
Southwark Works. And so of those, which ones would have happened anyway? The construction and the Southwark Works ones?
What do you mean would have happened anyway?
Well, because if those, I just don't understand whether your target is for new apprenticeships or ones that.
Well, these are all new.
But wouldn't we have had 83 apprenticeships in the construction industry anyway? What did Southwark do to get them, I suppose I'm trying to understand.
Those were apprenticeships that were created as a result of Section 106 agreements that we negotiated with developers and investors.
So if we hadn't raised it with the employers, they wouldn't have taken them on.
Okay. Is it possible just to get a bit more of the detail behind what you're saying circulated? Because I'd be quite interested in the breakdown and where they come from, because obviously there might be places where we could push for more, so that would be really helpful. Thank you. And my next question is about Lewisham Southwark College, and does that sort of come under you?
In a way. It's one of those shares. The trouble is when you've got these cross-cutting briefs.
Well, I think that's one of the problems with the situation we've got there, and I'm really, obviously the old Bermondsey site is in Riverside Ward, and we've been really frustrated by not getting a technical college on that site, which we were promised years ago.
Yes.
We seem to be in a slightly bizarre situation where nobody's been very happy with Lewisham Southwark College, but Southwark hasn't taken its place on the board for a year. Then Southwark was saying, don't worry, we're going to go and set up our own thing, even though there was no evidence that Southwark could do that. And I understand that whichever the skills commissioner has said to them, you can't do that. So I just wondered where we are or where you are in terms of what we are offering people in terms of that further education.
Okay, I mean, obviously, in my own ward, I have Southwark
They're
College.
selling off that bit.
Well, I'm just saying it impacts in my ward too. But let me say from the outset, look, this council's committed to getting our young people the most appropriate training and the most appropriate skills for them to get the jobs which are out there in the borough.
I think we'd all agree with that, yeah.
Well, I hope so. And if some of the institutions locally are not performing well in order to meet that objective, then it's our responsibility as the local authority to point that out. And
do something, hopefully.
Well, if it's within our remit, obviously.
Well, even if it's not.
Well, hang on. Okay, let's hear the answer. Let's hear the answer, Anita.
Okay. So that's why the leader, myself, Councillor Mills, and others took a position that we weren't happy, and there was feedback from the students themselves. It wasn't just other people in various bureaucracies. So the students themselves felt let down by the college, and so therefore we thought that we want, as far as we were concerned, we had to intervene to say that we wanted the best for our students, and we believed in the present scenario, having our own college, a Southwark-based college, which would be supported by employers. And I must say, through the business forum, a lot of the employers, and indeed a couple, wrote to the Education Commissioner to support our proposal for a separate college, so that we could get our youngsters trained up, get them the skills to get the jobs, because we've been missing a trick now. With all the but let me finish. We've been missing a trick if we didn't stand up for our young people to ensure that they got the skills now while all this construction is going on, because it's not going to be here forever, and so we need to Jasmine's committee has been quite hot on that too. Now, the fact that the Commissioner said that yes, the SOCO can continue, and indeed there's talk about it might be merged with Greenwich as well, which is another failing college. Now, how much that is just for their benefit rather than the benefit of the students there, I don't know. But we're committed to still providing that, whether it's through supporting the new LSOCO, whatever it's going to be called, or whether it's doing stuff that we're doing independently. As you know, we've got the Construction Skills Centre, which is opening at the Elephant early in the new year. A lot of the construction employers are signed up to that. They want to get young people through to get those skills, get them the apprenticeships and the jobs. So if there's other employers who want to work with the council and provide that very targeted education and training, then we're quite happy to enter into that relationship with them still. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to throw a shed full of money at it, but we can use our skills, our background and our influence to get that type of college off the ground.
That's one.
Just to follow up, I think I'm really pleased to hear that you're going to at least try and work with LSOCO. I think you've got to try and engage with people. does that mean you'll take the place on the board for Southwark?
It's not in my power to offer myself.
Do you think it's a good idea for Southwark to be on the board of the major college in our borough?
I believe there should be some form of representation from Southwark. So, but it's not my remit to decide who.
Whose remit is it?
Well, I suppose you could put that question to the leader of the council, the next council assembly. If you know.
That's helpful. I did the last one, didn't get an answer, but I'll try again.
Yeah, Jasmine, and then I think that is it for the evening. So,
okay.
So Jasmine.
Oh, I don't want to draw this out, but I do want to assure
honestly,
that we have, that the Scrutiny Committee also.
Are you chair?
Well, the Education Scrutiny Committee did actually want to know what's happening with the further education offer. And, from our scrutiny reports, you can go back and you can look at them online. You'll see that we, did influence some of that. We were quite satisfied that we were working on that.
Except that nothing's happened.
Well, I think.
Okay.
Well, I think
functioning.
Yeah, I mean,
well, actually,
the thing is, I think it's work in progress. Put it that way.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
because we haven't.
So let's not say we've done a great job.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things to happen yet. Put it that
Well,
way.
there's plenty of things to happen, but I just want to be sure that actually the cabinet and also the leaders of the children's workforce, are committed to actually changing that offer.
I'm sure they're committed. It's more like action that would make the difference.
Okay. We're going around in circles a little bit.
We are.
So, okay. Thank you, Ian, for coming and answering our questions this evening. On the national minimum wage scrutiny, we do need to move ahead fairly quickly on this as well. So I'll follow up on that suggestion that I've made this evening, Ian, and report back to the committee at the next meeting in October, so not the next meeting, because we have a packed agenda for September. Before we all go, there is a suggestion that you'll have seen from Shelley today that we start the next scrutiny meeting at 6:30 instead of 7, because we now have an additional call-in for that meeting. Now, as far as I could see from the emails, most people are okay with that. Is that okay?
Apologies for
Slight lateness. Okay, we can live with that, Johnson. Okay, right. Well, we can. I think that helps. Then it will help us to fit everything in for the next meeting.
Can I just check? Are we doing the voluntary sector?
Yeah.
And were there any papers to go with that?
Yeah, there will be. Yeah,
okay.
We're sorting that at the moment. I'll have a chat with you about that.
And the other thing I was just going to make a point is, Lord Kerslake appeared on the agenda. I didn't know in advance he was coming. I don't know if it was discussed at the last meeting or not.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because it took us a while to kind of the lead-in time, so we did know at the last meeting.
I suppose it was interesting, but I'm not quite sure how. When there's an issue that we all already agree on, I don't know.
Well, I think he gave